How's it going, everybody? This is Cinema Steve. Today what I want to talk about is lighting. You know, you have all types of lighting. You have monster lighting, beauty lighting. You want to get some dramatic effects, or you want something, more for comedic purposes. There's something that I've noticed what a lot of beginners do. When I see these independent films that they're doing, judging by where they're being lit from and where the shadows are, for whatever reason, they have the lights somewhere on the floor. Like, I guess they put it there so it can't be seen in the shot. And it's this very yellow light that I see. And it's very unattractive. If they're gonna be close up or medium shots, the light will not be in the frame whatsoever. And I'm talking about the actual source. Definitely what you would want to do, at least have two lights. One key lighting them, and then the other one, it could be a backlight, rim lighting. That way that they're separated from the background, because it gives it more depth, especially depending on the mood. You have to pay attention to the mood. What does the story say? Is it drama? You could go with some lighting that's a bit harsh. What's the mood of the scene? That's your chance to start playing around with colors. So if you get color gels and like you use it in your scene, you can do something like this. I got blue color gels on my light, splashing the background. Why? Because it's a plain white boring background. So I'm just adding some color to it. You know what I mean? And you could clearly see that I'm separated from the background. It might be a nighttime scene, right? So you could use something like a blue, or maybe like a kind of greenish blue. You could even use sodium vapor. It's kind of like that orange color. And like for those of you that don't know what sodium vapor is, it's pretty much the street lights. Like how it's got like that harsh orange type of tone, For nighttime scenes, you have that coming through the window, boom. We already know, oh, it's nighttime because, that color only comes from a street light. Another thing what you might want to consider is, let's say comedic, right? You're gonna want, everything well lit. Maybe not so much if it's a dark comedy, but like, whenever you're doing, like a sitcom or something like that, don't make it super flat. Also, my personal opinion, when you see something super flat, me personally, you're not really into the story like that. Like what happens is you tend to pull away because it's so boring. Something so boring to look at. Here's something that it always messes with me. A scene, in a dark environment. You do want your subject lit well enough so that you know who's talking, you know who you're looking at. I honestly hate it when people say, oh man, but it's too dark. And I'm like, all right, well, let me ask you a question. Can you see his eyes? Yeah. You know exactly who you're looking at. You can tell, you can distinguish this character from somebody else. Yeah. I'm like, okay, so why is it acceptable when you see this same shot or darker in a film, but not here? Is it because you're in the project and you're afraid that everything's too dark? The reality is when you do a dark scene, not everything's well lit. If you really pay attention to your films, it's not well lit. It's dark for a reason, especially when it comes to horror. The reason why, it's very dark is because it builds up that suspense. The less that you see, the scarier it is. So it's like, you're not gonna have a basement scene where the lights are all really off, but somehow, some way, the talent is well lit. It doesn't make sense. It kind of pulls away from it too, you know what I mean? Like, if you're doing a nighttime scene and everything's well lit, I'm like, okay, well now it doesn't look convincing that it's nighttime. So there's certain things, certain elements that you should have that will definitely cue off that it's nighttime. Like, I like to use 3 colors coming in from the window. And if they come in from a window, I always make sure they're coming from blinds. When it comes to horror, you have what's called monster lighting, right? And that's when the lighting comes from underneath, shooting directly up. But when you were a kid and you're telling ghost stories with your friends and you put that flashlight right underneath your jaw, so that's monster lighting. You also might want to take a page off of the Godfather's book. They lit from above, coming down, which is why there was like a lot of shadows around the eyes, right? You know, so that was definitely something new that was done with that film. That can play for, you know, mysterious, or, you know, a villain, you know, anything of that nature. You definitely do not want to light somebody up in that way for a beauty shot. And especially beauty shots, it's not it's not ideal to use harsh lighting, you know, because the soft lighting, such as this one right here, it covers up, you know, like those wrinkles, you know, and you know those blemishes, especially with older females, right? Especially, you know, like they naturally have like a lot of wrinkles. Soft lighting diminishes that, you know, which is why it's called, you know, beauty lighting, right? Morning or sunset shots, I like to punch in those oranges big time. Like, I kick up the color temperature in the camera settings. I'll go all the way like to 10,000 K, right? Even in post-production, I might just add a little bit more orange to it, you know? But again, that's not always the case, you know, because you got to keep in mind what's the story, right? And also, would it be too much orange? Because at least in post-production, I'm like, maybe I filmed it with too much orange, so let me dumb it down, and I could add some more blues to it and then balance it out. But there's times when, you know, I go to the park or, you know, hiking or something, and I'll bring my camera, start taking pictures, especially around golden hour. So I like that contrastiness, and especially you know, with the orange. So like I'll bump those two up, especially in post production. I think what inspired that was when I watched Top Gun. I love the scenes like in the nighttime where, you know, it was heavy blue, or there was like a lot of those the sunset shots, and it was like very orange, you know. And I especially love like the beginning, you know, like when the planes are getting ready to take off, you know. There was a lot of oranges that were used. So these are things that I love doing. There's been like a lot of independent projects that I've seen, especially when you have like no budget at all. If you're outdoors, right, at night, what do you do? Right? That's a tough one. With LED lights now, you know, they're battery powered. You can have some LEDs outside, and you know, again, it all depends. Like me personally, I would probably have some key light, very soft, and you know, maybe two other lights that would be, you know, harsh, you know, because the moonlight and the street lights. But if the characters are walking, then what do? You might want to have, you know, some extra hands, and you know, they're walking along with the talent and the camera operator, you know. But again, you know, like at least for indoors, or especially like car shots, those are tough because, you know, you got to get a little clever with it. However, because again, LED lights, life has become a lot easier. So you have like those lights that it's like a tube, right, or a little strip, and they're, you know, they're battery powered, or you could power them, you know, through the car. So what's nice is, like, you know, let's say for example, you have a two shot. You got your passenger and your driver. What I would do is I would get one of those strip lights. I'd put it there in the dashboard. Use something in between bluish and green, because, or a very light blue, because a lot of the times, you know, with these cars, that's the light that's augmented from the dashboard. And especially if you have a car that's much newer and everything's digital, like mine for example, the light that it gives off is like a very light blue, right? So that's something I would use. You have these car mounts, you know, that, you know, you put these suction cups on the hood or on the side, and you got these portable lightweight LED lights. Well, now you can, you know, shine something through the window a little bit. You can also play it off like maybe you're in a garage or even outside, and you set up a rig where you have two lights, kind of like a helicopter rigged up, and you know, you got your gaffer, he's just, you know, spinning it around, and that's giving off, you know, the illusion that, you know, the car is driving, and you're going through these street lights are just, you know, passing you by. Especially, you know, like if you got the luxury of having a green screen in the background, like that sucker up, you know, just make sure whatever footage you have, you film that correctly at the proper eye level. You don't want to have something like back in the days where there was a projector in the background, right? and it used to be, the street traffic and all that stuff. And the way that that was positioned with the two characters that were in the car, right? It almost looked like if they were on a lowrider. It's like, how come it just looks like at a slant? It's weird. I don't know. It's a little hard for me to explain, but I think some of you know what I'm talking about, right? Oh, and like for like interview shots, my lighting is very simple. Very rarely do I have to bust out more than 2 lights. A lot of the times, especially, like when it comes like to an interview shot, I like keeping it simple, make it very natural looking. I don't want 5 lights on somebody. So, I mean, depending how you do it and depending on the environment, granted, but it can be overkill. I've seen it many times where it's overkill and it's like, all right, I'm seeing like 10 lights on somebody. Why? The scene looks so flat now. Like, I don't get it. What I like to do is I'll have a key light. I usually use, depending on the room, if there's a big window, I'll have that like as my fill, because you got clouds coming in and moving or whatever. Or sometimes I'll swap it. That could be my key light if it's nice and strong enough. And then I'll use another light as my fill. I always put the backlighting on, right? And sometimes I like to use a different color. Like if it's daylight, right? I might have the backlight at a slight orange, so that way, it's a little different. Or sometimes I'll have it, matching the key light. Also depending, on the background itself too. If the house lights are very ugly, sometimes I'll bring out a few more lights just to light up the ambience. So that's when it's ideal to bust out like 5 lights, right? But I've seen 5 lights on an individual, and that's ridiculous. Music videos are great. I believe you could just have fun, just go nuts. You can have like those quasar lights, right? Those long tube ones, and they're pretty affordable. I can't think of the price right now. Those or other lights that are similar. I've seen some for very reasonable prices. You could dim them, change the colors, which is awesome. You could light up the background, and you can even have them like in the scene, especially for a music video. Make it nice and flashy. Especially a lot of these LED lights. You can control them. You could daisy chain them. What the master one does, they'll all do it, right? They're all slave to the masters, right? When it comes to music videos, a lot of the ring lights are used, for those. And for those of you that don't know what a ring light is, especially if you're a beginner, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's literally a ring, and you can put the lens right in the middle. It's nice because, the subject, whoever's performing, they're well lit, nice soft lighting all around, and you see the reflection of the light in their pupils. If you're in a bigger budget, you could always have what are those lights called again? It's like a whole bunch of lights in the background. Like all of them are slightly different, right? And you can angle them in a slight different way, so that's always awesome for music videos. For those of you that are getting started, especially when it comes to lighting, you may be great with the camera, but now you want to bump up your lighting skills. There's plenty of things out there. I actually have some tutorials on my YouTube channel. All right, guys, stay tuned. I hope you guys like what you're listening to. Please subscribe, share, comment. Feel free to reach out, ask me any questions.